Hi friends, hello, hola, buenos dias. Welcome to another episode of Heart to Heart with Estitude. On this podcast, I share with you inspiring posts about lifestyle, living your best life, even as I also journey to live my best life. And it's always great to have you, join me on each episode of the podcast to listen and, also reach out and share your thoughts. So today, what are we going to talk about? We are quite an interesting season or time in my country of residence, Nigeria, and it has had me thinking about several things, but this goes beyond the country and it goes to several situations in our lives. And the question I have for you guys today that I want to talk about is, how do you know, that it is time to leave a particular situation or thing, or if you should still remain there? So, maybe you can say to leave or to stay, to leave or to remain, This is beyond just maybe living a toxic relationship or something. It goes to almost every situation in our lives when you have to make a decision. Okay, am I still going to remain here, or am I done with this particular thing, right? So what informed it? Like I said, this has been going on for in my country, and people are like, oh well, I need to leave this country, I can't take it anymore, I need to find another option, and it goes beyond the country. It could be a toxic relationship, a toxic job, a toxic friendship, a toxic country. Then how do you know that it is time to leave, or how do you know that, okay, I can still stay here? It's not going to be a very long podcast. You can listen in once you're listening. You can reach out to me on social media, Estitude on Twitter, Estitude_ on Instagram. Let's continue the conversation, or you could even send me an email. Right, but I just want to talk about, when you're in a situation when it seems as if life has held you down, or a situation has kept you from moving, right, from making progress, right, and it seems to be as if you don't have your peace. How do you know that, okay, I need to leave, I can't, remain in this kind of situation, right? And is it every time that you have that kind of feeling that you actually need to leave? Are there times when you actually do not need to leave? You probably just need to learn to manage, the relationship or situation better. Yeah, so that's what I want to talk about. First and foremost, right, when you talk about toxicity, people usually tie that to relationships more, right? And they're like, you can't stay in a relationship if it is toxic, it is not good for your mental health. Maybe the guy is beating you, or the lady is, verbally abusing you, or mentally, abusing you, and all of that. But yeah, great stuff. So how do you know that it is time to leave? Okay, so we're talking about jobs, we're talking about relationships, we're talking about even friendships. You realize that some friendships are actually toxic. You can't stay in them because they are not adding value to you, and you're also not gaining value, or it's not a very healthy relationship. So I remember the other time I traveled and we were doing a tour of a natural reserve. It was the monkey sanctuary in Ghana. I'm trying to remember the name of the sanctuary now, it's not coming to my head. And as we were walking through the sanctuary where monkeys reside, right, we saw a particular tree, and they called that tree a parasitic tree. So basically what happens is that tree would grow around another tree. As it grows, it derives its nutrients from the tree it is growing around about. Before you know it, that's one that is gaining its nutrient from the other tree will grow so strong, and the tree is gaining its nutrient from is going to die. So that's like a parasitic tree where it gains nutrient from this other tree that is growing around about it, and very soon the other tree will die because this other one is gaining nutrient from it and it's not adding anything to it. And then that parasitic trees, those trees that look like they have spaces in between them, they're just, I don't know how to describe them, but yeah, check out parasitic trees. So when a relationship is like that, where it seems to be as if this person, this thing, this job, this whatever is taking everything, sucking out everything good from you, but not adding anything, if you're not careful, it could lead to death, or it could lead to taking out everything good from the person, and then the person is left, like an empty shell. May you not be that person. So yeah, when it comes to jobs, when it comes to relationships, there's certain things that you should actually look out for. Some of them being, is this thing mentally draining? Is it taking a toll on your mental health? Now, we know we throw that word around, these things affecting my mental health, sometimes even as a joke. But when you realize that day in, day out, a particular job, a particular, person, a particular situation is telling on your mental health and is really stressing you, and you try as much as possible to manage it, but each day is a new level of stress, a new level of draining, then you probably should start looking at, is this even good for me, right? If it's probably a job where it seems to be at all the leaders are toxic, or maybe a majority of the people who are leaders or managers there are toxic, you may want to look at it and say, is this even good for me? If it's a situation where you realize that you are always more stressed when you get into that thing than when you were not in it. So probably say it's an event or anything, and you know that the moment I try to get into this thing, or it's a job or a relationship, once I'm in it or talking to this person, I am always more stressed than before I got into it. Then you probably need to have a rethink, or you need to look at it again and say, is this thing even good for me, right? So if it's a place or a person, a job that there's no integrity, a person or a country that there's no integrity, it seems that your ambition is a threat to them, or your values simply do not align. As a Christian, the Bible says, can two work together if they do not agree, right? So when you begin to see these signs, these are signs that could tell you that, okay, is it time for me to actually leave this thing? Now, to put it in context, so I'm a Christian, and I believe in the Bible, and it says that there should be no divorce, right? So even before, so this is why if you're a single person, before you go into a relationship or before you go into a marriage with someone, you want to be sure that your values align. You want to be sure that this thing you're doing is not something that is going to get you to your own death, or it's not going to cause you to be looking back with regret, because they say once you've gotten into a marriage, you can get out of it except by death. So this is talking to before you go into that marriage, maybe in your relationship stage, maybe you're in a job and you're looking at it and it's really toxic, or you're in a place and it's like, this is not healthy for me. So if that is the situation, of course, when you've seen these signs, like their values do not align, you're always living more stressed, it's every man for himself, you're not supported, it's always mentally draining, there's no integrity, your lifestyle is like a thread, and like, why are you always trying to show? And probably you're not even showing yourself, you're just being yourself. These are signs that you should actually be rethinking if this is good for you. If you're in a country where it seems to be like, what's going on everywhere? Why is this always like this? Well, maybe you should start looking at it. So now, when you realize the situation is like this, what do you do? Do you just up and go? I'm done with you, this job. I'm done with you, this person, and I'm not doing it again. So I'm going. Is that the way to go, or are there ways to actually handle it? So I would like to hear from you guys. You could drop me a chat in my DM on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, or just send me an email, right? But I'd like to hear from you. Do you just up and go, or do you go through some certain steps, right, before you okay, I'm done, I'm literally done, right? I remember being in certain jobs, and everybody was leaving the job They were leaving. And when your colleagues are leaving that company, you just feel like I should also go, just because of the FOMO, fear of missing out, or like, well, everybody I met in this company has left. Why am I the only one here? It hasn't gone to a better place. I remember that time some years ago, and I was trying to also apply to certain jobs, but nothing was coming forward. I was feeling bad because most of my colleagues are leaving the company, right? But at the point, it just struck my mind that as God even told me it was time to leave. Do you understand? Like, is it even time for me to actually leave this company, or is it because every other person is leaving? That's why I also want to leave, because maybe they're not doing things enough as we wanted it. So I remember then I just had to mellow. So when it came on my heart later on that it's time to leave this place, like, you're done. I remember I had started some applications and processes, and at the time at least two of them came through. Like, I think I got about 2 offers at the time. So now this is talking about the fact that you need to understand seasons. Even if a situation is seeming very toxic, you don't just up and go. You need to analyze it from a perspective of, okay, you first accept that this is toxic. Truly, I do not like my job. Truly, this relationship I am in is not going to work. You need to first accept it. Now, I'm not saying you're going to place a blame on yourself or on the other person or on your manager. You would admit that this is the cause. This is why. And I know this is not going to work. I need to leave. So that's the first step, accepting it. Second step, if you're a Christian, is you're going to go to God and say, God, this is the situation I am in. You can see it is my fault. Or this is the issue I'm going through. It's toxic to me. It's toxic to my health and all of this. How do you want me to handle it? Right? Most times it could be time for you to go, but you don't just quit immediately, right? You need to have an exit strategy. What's your exit strategy? For instance, you are in a job and you're realizing this job is toxic. My boss, stresses me out, or my job is not helping me to achieve the goal I want to achieve in my life. So how do I do? Do I just send in a resignation letter, or do I have an exit strategy? You're in a country and you're saying, I'm tired of this country. It's not helping me achieve the goals I want to achieve. Do you just say, well, I'm going to leave this country? Where are you going to? Do you understand? You're in a relationship that is not helping you. Have you discussed with the person and said, these are the issues we're having? Can we resolve it? Or do you just up and go? Do you get that? So first, acknowledge the situation. This is where I am in. This is what I am facing. Then, what is my exit strategy? Is it fixable? If it's not fixable, what is my plan to go? Do you understand? So have an exit strategy. So now, when your exit strategy is set, okay, so now, right, you have accepted that this is toxic. You have come up with, you've discussed it, or you've reasoned it, you've prayed about it, you've discussed with this person, or you've looked at your options and you've determined that you need to go. So what is your exit strategy? And now when you have an exit strategy, you don't have to feel bad like, oh, well, is my destiny tied to this person or to this job or this, that. Always realize that your brilliance will go with you wherever you go. So if you need to leave that job, don't feel like, oh, is this the end of the world? Because sometimes people are scared to leave toxic relationships because they don't know what the future holds. So they're scared to move. Always realize that wherever you go, your brilliance will go with you, and then God's presence will be with you, especially if He has given you the approval to go. So if you're living a country and you feel like, I don't know what this other place would look like, just trust the process and trust God. So those are things you can do, when you want to have, you want to leave a place, right? So if you now realize that the toxicity is with you, so you know what, you have to analyze the situation. Where is this toxicity from? Is it from this job or from this thing? Or is it that you are living a toxic life? So when you realize that, whoa, this is actually not about this other job, or it's not about this person. It's about me and the values or the way I've lived my life. Now I need to have a rethink. What are the things you can do like I said, you have to first critically analyze your circumstances. What are the things that are toxic that you've allowed? Maybe you've allowed anger to, brew in you, or unforgiveness, or pride. These things have taken a root in you, and they are not allowing you to live that life of, joy, of happiness, of being free. So now you need to look at those things, critically analyze them, then replace them intentionally and prayerfully, because sometimes it's difficult. If you're someone who is cynical, you do not trust, it's sometimes very difficult for you to begin to trust. So you need to intentionally know that I need to live a toxic free life. It's not good for you, right? So you begin to intentionally replace those things. Find a purpose that is higher than yourself. When you realize that it is not me, it is God in me, for instance, that can be a very great motivation for you to stop those particular habits, and then find a purpose, like I said, that is higher than yourself. Serve. Maybe find a place to serve. Maybe find a mentor or accountability partner. And then always also reward yourself. Maybe it was unforgiveness or anger. When you realize that you're able to better manage your anger, or you're easily forgiving people, treat yourself something good as a reward, And then always remember that it's a journey. So even times when you realize, I've fallen back into my anger or this, that, forgive yourself and move on. And then if you feel like it's difficult for you to actually move on, to actually get out of that toxic situation, you probably may seek professional help, right? So now, for instance, maybe you were in a marriage that is really toxic, is beating you, or you're facing very, very terrible circumstances. Seek professional help so that they can help you if they need to, report to the police or something. You could do that. Did you get that? So toxic situations, toxic people, they're not good for you, because apart from affecting your mental state, it could lead to physical illness like high blood pressure or more, and you want to ensure that you're living your best life. So living your best life is living a free life. And I like the way Jesus says that the little children come unto me, because he that will come into God's kingdom should be like a child. So how do I live like a child even as an adult? It means that I need to have like a childlike heart. And it takes grace, my people. It takes God's grace to live that kind of life. So daily we are aspiring to want to live that kind of life. So you're trying to get out of toxic relationships. Don't be a toxic person. And also let God guide you in certain situations if you're to leave or if you're to remain. So that's about it today on this episode of To Live or To Stay. So my fellow Nigerians, if you're looking at the situation of our country, or Uranians, or whatever our new name is, and you're like, do I leave or stay? You want to first critically analyze it, right? You want to say, what will God have you do? You want to have an exit strategy. Do you get? And you want to remember that anywhere you go, your brilliance will go with you, and God's presence will go with you. If it's a job, if it's a relationship, if it's a situation, if it's an apartment, anything that's toxic to you. Once you've analyzed that this is toxic, it's not helping you, you need to go through these processes and then determine if you would leave or stay. So I would say thank you again for listening to this episode. If it has blessed you, do share with a friend, or maybe 10. You can listen up on the old episodes of the podcast I have. Let me know what you'd like me to share with you. And thank you again so much. I remain your friend and your favorite awesome living advocate, Attitude. Till I come your way again, cheers.